Hi, Flick here from the Nerd Soapbox, and today we're at the 2023 Pasadena Comic Con with a special guest. Our guest is an actor, producer, and an activist, best known to the Nerd Soapbox gang for playing the young Tom Hanks role in the film Big, as well as singing and dancing his way into our hearts in Newsies. Extra, extra, the Nerd Soapbox is about to talk to David Moscow. Hi, David.
Hello.
Hey, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good.
So how's your convention so far?
It's been great.
Yeah.
This is definitely a high point of it, I think.
It's my high point. But what was your fandom growing up as a kid? Were you into sports or comic books or cartoons?
All of the above. Big
Yeah.
Yankee, giant Knicks fan. And then I had all the comic books, big Marvel fan.
Okay.
And then I got into Image Comics when everybody split off.
Yeah.
And then cartoons, I don't know, Inspector Gadget? That was it.
All right. So how old were you when you first started acting, and what inspired you to pursue it as a career?
I was 11.
Really?
I was 11, and I had done a school play. And I think my parents were trying to find things to keep me occupied.
All right.
And so there was a local audition for kids in the Bronx for a Jodie Foster film called Five Corners.
Oh.
It was Jodie Foster and John Turturro, and they were looking for 11-year-old boys.
Oh.
So I went in, and I got it, but my parents said no.
Oh.
Yeah, because they didn't know anything about Hollywood at that time.
All right, first.
And but then my second audition was for a little movie called Big.
Oh, wow.
But at the time, it wasn't Tom Hanks, it was Robert De Niro. So I was auditioning for the best friend, not for the kid who makes the wish, not for young Josh.
Okay. Wow. All right. So, what was that audition process like for the role of Josh Baskin, or whatever? But it wasn't Josh Baskin, you just said. It was the best
Billy.
friend.
Yeah. So they brought in a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
I think it was like a community center. And I remember the floor was carpeted, and 10 kids were like rolling around on the floor, and Penny was sitting there in a chair, and she was like, "What's your name?" David, and she'd ask you a couple questions, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
And then so it went away, and I forgot about it because it was De Niro.
Right.
And then about 6 months later, they reached out and said, so Penny remembered.
Yeah.
Because Penny's from the Bronx as well, so she remembered that kid. She was like, "Give me that kid from the Bronx," and and they called up and they said, it's not for billing anymore; it's for young Josh.
Okay.
And that's how I did it.
Oh. But okay, from your perspective as a child actor, how was Penny Marshall as a director? Was the direction you received any different from that of your adult actors?
So, obviously, Penny is like incredibly funny. Right?
Yeah.
So she's always looking to mine the humor from a situation.
Right.
She also would do 40 to 50 takes on each moment.
Oh, right.
So it was scary as a kid. I thought I was doing things wrong.
I bet.
But the first day, I think it was the first day I was on set, it's like a brief moment in the movie, I'm taking the garbage out, and I go, take the garbage out. And she made me do it 45 times.
Oh.
But Hanks was on set that day, and he pulled me to the side. He could tell that I was like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
And he was like, I did a 50 take yesterday. This is just how she likes to do it. She wants to go into the editing room with as many different possibilities as she could have.
Oh.
And she says herself, she could make 5 movies with what she shoots.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have Did you have much singing and dancing experience before you were cast as David Jacobs?
Absolutely
in the musical
none.
Newsies?
So I had just done an off-Broadway play.
Yeah.
Where the play was about a 13-year-old or 14-year-old being taught how to dance.
Oh.
And so every night I would go, and it was at a camp.
Right.
And my camp counselor was teaching me how to dance in the play.
Wow.
And the camp counselor was, the actor's name was Dante, and he became the rapper Mos Def. And he was a very talented dancer, and he taught me these 4 moves. And it just so happened that the audition for Newsies was about a month after. And so I went in and did that dance.
Okay.
It was the only dance I knew. But I knew it really, really well. And so I think they were hoodwinked.
Okay.
Because they saw my audition and were like, "This kid can dance." and then I showed up on set and they were like, "Oh my goodness, what did we do?" So if you notice,
it's too late.
If you notice in the movie, there'll be big dancing scenes. Everyone's dancing. And then when it's my turn, they cut real close on my face. I'm like
me.
That's right. Yeah, you can't see the rest of your body.
Yeah. You have no idea my feet were moving.
That's right.
Yeah. So what mischief did you get into with the other young cast members of Newsies when the cameras weren't rolling?
It was wild. So there were a lot of pranks being played.
Really? Such as?
Well, we filled Kenny Ortega's trailer with newspapers. So he opened the front door and it was literally floor-to-ceiling newspapers. And there were a lot of super soakers, water balloons. We had these like not gangs, but gangs basically. And if you weren't in one gang and you got caught out there, you could get knocked around a little bit. Stuff happened. Yeah.
Wow.
So it'd be very funny. It'd be like night. We're shooting a lot of nights, and it's old New York, right? So there's like these lanterns on the walls, and a horse-drawn buggy would go by. You're just walking back to your trailer, and then suddenly Newsies would come out of and you'd be like, "No!" They chase you to your trailer. All in good fun, though. All in good fun.
Wow. Okay. So you work with an eclectic...
The gangs of New York.
You work with an eclectic group of child actors. Can you share any remembrances of maybe Christian Bale or Max Casella or Luke Edwards?
Well, Christian and I shared a trailer.
Really?
So we had they're called a double banger, where there's a thing in the middle that closes.
Right.
And but my bathroom and his bathroom were flushed against each other, and so
no pun intended.
No pun intended. So whenever sometimes we would happen to be in the bathroom at the same time, and I would start singing because he was very proud Brit, and I would start singing the national anthem, and he would start singing "God Save the Queen." And we'd sit there singing next to each other while doing business. Yeah. Probably to hide the business, but Christian's a good dude.
Well, how did your family react when you told them you were dropping out of college to track wolves for the the Round River Conservation Studies?
Well, my parents are very progressive community activists, and I think while they did not like that I was dropping out of college, I think dropping out of college to do sort of environmental work was probably a good thing, right? If I was dropping out of college to, I don't know, lay on my couch and do nothing, play video games, that would have been probably upsetting.
Any lycanthropy running the family? Okay. So how did your co-developing and co-producing Lin-Manuel Miranda's first production of the musical In the Heights with your ex-fiance Kerry Washington come about? How'd that come about? That's awesome.
That's a big. So it came about. My dad, who is a community activist, builds schools in New York, develops dual language schools. So they teach English and Spanish from K through 12. And he came home one day and he said, Luis, who was working on the school with him, Luis's kid, who I used to ride my school bus with, and he was just this bratty little kid. Luis's kid has written 15 pages of music at college, and would I listen to it? And I said, well, that's a terrible idea, because it's a family friend, and there's nothing worse than bad theater. This was not something I wanted to do, but my dad really pushed me. So I had a theater company at the time. So Lin came down. It was Lin-Manuel Miranda. He came down with his friends, and 10 minutes in, I was like, lock the doors. This is amazing.
Wow.
So I then brought the main big investor, Jill Furman, who her dad did Book of Mormon, and they won a bunch of Tonys. And casting director Bernie Telsey, who did Rent, and he had directed a play that I was in, so I sort of knew everybody in the theater world, and I brought them all down to the workshop. I was seeing Kerry Washington at the time. I put her in the play, and we locked in the money right there on that workshop.
And the rest is Broadway history.
The rest is Broadway history.
That's fantastic.
So I found Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Wow.
My dad found Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Okay, please tell us about From Scratch. your reality TV series, and then you produced that with your wife, right?
Yeah.
And then the book. Yeah, tell us about the book that you co-wrote with your father.
So,
bring it up a little bit so we can see it. Oh yeah.
This is the book.
This is nice.
So, my wife and I produced this show. It's going to be on Amazon and Apple coming in February.
Okay.
And basically, I go meet chefs around the world, and they make me a meal, and then I hunt, gather, grow, forage every ingredient. So, like, I'll go to Italy, Naples. I'll have the best pizza in the world at Da Michele, and then I will milk a water buffalo and make the mozzarella. I will harvest the wheat and make the flour. And then there were stories that can't be told in a 42-minute cable show. And so that's where the book came in. There were we were in the Philippines and we were fishing to make patis, which is a fundamental ingredient in Filipino cuisine, and we couldn't get any fish. So we went out, and I asked the captain, does this happen a lot? And he says, yeah, we go out further and further, longer and longer, we don't get fish. And so then we did research, and it turns out that the South China Sea, where 1/3 of the fishing boats in the world are, is basically dead. It's lost 90% of its fish in the last 50 years. So these sort of things that we would come across were unpeeling an onion, right? And A&E didn't really want us to talk about sort of that on the show.
But it needs to be talked about.
And so in the book, we really dive into stuff that, there's a lot of adventure in it. There's a lot of fun. I nearly drowned a couple times. I got stung by bees. Yeah, that was a blast. Now it is. I got stung by bees in wild African bees in Kenya.
Bizarre.
But at the same time, we're also asking deep questions where, at the heart of it is, will humanity survive? That's why, sort of, if you see the lower title, it's From Scratch Adventures in Harvesting, Hunting, Fishing, and Foraging on a Fragile Planet. And we're the #1 travel book in the country. And we were the #9 of all books, hardcovers, when we came out.
So, congratulations. That's fantastic.
So go please check it out.
Okay. So how did your developing mixed income green buildings in Harlem come about?
So
this is no puff piece, all right? we take things seriously here at the Nerd Soapbox.
I see.
Yeah.
Serious.
Yeah.
So I went to school in Harlem.
Yeah.
I went to high school there, and then I went to college, Columbia, briefly, before I went with the Wolves. And so I had a place there. And right next to where my place was an empty lot. And this was still the heart of Harlem was pretty rough, and 114th was there were crack dens on 114th, and there were a lot of people hanging out in that lot, that empty lot. It was a burned out lot. And so what could we do to sort of stop people from hanging out there, but also, Harlem was going through the beginnings of gentrification, and so how could we give people affordable places to live? So we went to the city and said, I'll find investors if you give us the rights to this land, because the city owned it. And so they gave us the rights at a very cheap price, and we put in that this will be low-income housing forever. So half of it is market rate, half of it is low income, and the market rate subsidizes the low income. And everybody involved sort of got on board with the idea, and it worked. So that group of investors were now doing more.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Wow. Okay, what are you working on now?
Well, I go into season 3 on From Scratch, and then there's a spin-off called From Scratch Home. So here I make dishes from scratch. There I'll be renovating a house, my house, and if I need to make a faucet, I will mine iron, smelt steel, make a mold. If I need to...
Whoa.
What? Yeah, that's what I said.
Whoa.
And then bamboo flooring, I'll harvest bamboo, I'll make the epoxies, I'll lay down the bamboo. And so it's a real snapshot of the hard work and the expertise that goes into sort of building what we live in.
It's amazing.
All right. For somebody who knows nothing about this, I grew up in New York, and I didn't know how to put in a light bulb. This is going to be a wild show.
All right. Where are you on social media?
Oh, you can find me, I'm on Instagram, really. That's my big one. Yeah, at David Raphael Moscow.
Again, one more time, for the audience.
At David Raphael Moscow on Instagram.
All right. Well, gee, David, thanks for talking to us.
My pleasure. This was great.
Wow.
In-depth
All right.
interview. You know too much about me. I don't like this.
Well, I've been following you for years. Your career.
That's true.
All right. Let's see who else we could find at the Pasadena Comic Con. All right.
That was great.
You're really impressive.
Yeah.
Man. Seriously.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow.